Let's conquer the fear of the blank page by trying some more background experiments. Welcome to Junk Journal Snacks. It's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. So we are again working in the beautiful journal made by my dear friend Honey. This amazes me every single time. It's so gorgeous. As always, you can find Honey's Instagram linked below. And as always, I have to tell you, she does not sell these, unfortunately. So in our last episode, last Sunday, we created this page together, concentrating on the background technique with the holes and the two vintage papers. And I promised you that today we would do a more modern version. So let's find ourselves a blank page. I think there's one in the front. This might also be a really cool option with the black. I'm keeping that one in mind. How about this one right here? So this is fairly thin packaging paper, but the page is a lot stiffer since I glued this pocket on. If you haven't seen that other video of the page I just showed you, please go check the playlist for my Junk Journal Snacks 2023 in the description box below this video. So I mentioned in that video that one of the easiest way to conquer your fear of the blank page is to just glue something over it like we did with the book page. Another option would be to use some stenciling. So I'm going to use one of my favorite stencils ever. It's by PM Artist Studio and it's called Aqueous Effervescence, and it's the small pattern because there's also a large version of this, and I will link this for you in the description box along with a discount code for orders over $30. I want this pattern to be quite subtle on my page. We won't see a lot of it by the time we're done. So I'm going to use the Distress Oxide Spray Frayed Burlap. If you don't have any sprays, you can obviously also use a brush like this and your ink pads. Or even just a brush and paint. Lots of options. Whenever I spray through a stencil, I make sure that I have some paper, usually it's packaging paper like this, next to me, so that I can just take the stencil and put it there for some fun collage fodder. Always make sure to shake your sprays. So there's how that turned out. Isn't that just absolutely gorgeous? So this is dry now. And one thing you need to pay attention to is if you use packaging paper or other thin paper, your sprays will come through to the other side. I'm totally fine with this. I think it looks cool, but maybe you would not want that for your page. So always try it out first or use a page where you say it does not matter if that happens. So I want to add another layer on top, and I want this layer to have more texture. So there's a lot of options for this. You could use cheesecloth or fabric or lace or something like this, which I think is a drywall tape. That is a super cool texture as well. I think I'm going to try something a bit more crazy color-wise. This is netting from lemons that I bought at the supermarket. It's super soft and it has such a nice bright color. I could of course always change the color by coloring it myself, either with sprays or whatever, watercolor paints, anything like that. And I don't want to waste it by putting it all over my page. I just want to actually put it in, whoops, put it in places where I am most likely to make my holes to see it through. So let's cut this. So this time I want to plan it a little more. So I'll plan a hole for up here. Let's do 3. That's always a great number. 1 here and 1 here. It looks pretty absurd at the moment, doesn't it? And I have no guarantee that it's going to get better. We are experimenting together and just having some fun. And I want this to look really like raggedy. So I want to cut in here and tear them up a little bit more from the inside. Do you enjoy experimenting as well? Or do you rather like the safe route? Are you afraid to ruin your journal? I totally get that. But then you'll never get any amazing, surprising outcomes. Maybe you could have a journal just for experimenting. We could have a journal for just trying background techniques. That would also be fun. I just decided I want to cut away any excess because I don't want this to be like very bulky. I'm still thinking about what to put over this. I don't have a plan. I am tempted to just put this on top and then to tear those holes here, but I'm not sure about the gluing process. Oh, let's just try it, otherwise we'll never know. Unfortunately, I tore this here. It's not good. Let's turn that around. I don't want the tear to be right where the hole is. So let's turn that. Because here it doesn't matter. Here I can just glue it down. Whoops. Just meant to tear off a little bit. That's okay. I need this to be shorter because I don't want it going over my page. So I need to tear this down some more. Yeah, that's better. I can glue this on separately or not, it doesn't really matter. So now let's try to tear the holes. Maybe I should first make sure that these stay in place. I'm going to try masking tape. I know this is super weird. Okay, so let's tear here and let's make a hole that is big enough to see our netting underneath, but not too big because I don't want to see the masking tape. And I don't want to just glue this netting down with my matte gel because I don't want it to become flat. I want this to stay nice and fluffy. And I want it to kind of like come out. So you have to find the balance, how big your hole should be, depending on what's underneath. So that's kind of what I was going for. And now comes the tricky part of gluing it down. I'm again going to try my matte gel. You could also use some other type of glue, but I would suggest you brush your glue on. So maybe like a craft glue or a bookbinder's glue or something like that. Especially if you're using thin packaging paper like this. I think you would see the streaks of glue through it if you just use a glue like that. You know what I mean? This is the part that I am most insecure about, how it's going to look in the end. The thing is, I want to glue this down, the netting, but I don't want to glue it down where the hole is. So that's where it becomes a bit tricky. So probably best to do it in parts like this. I want to add some butterfly die cuts here as focal points. If you don't have die cuts, you can just cut out images from books, from magazines. Maybe you have digital clip art. I'm sure you have things in your stash. But I want to use these. I cannot link these for you because they are no longer available, but maybe you can find them on eBay. It's the number 660236. And it's both the die and the embossing folder. But before using the dye, I want to add some color to this. And I'm thinking of using this mustard seed Distress Oxide. And I'd like to have an idea of what it's going to look like. So this is where this comes in very handy. Maybe you've seen my last vlog from earlier this week, where I show you how I made these. These were very much inspired by my dear friend Louisa Heinzel. I will link that vlog for you under this video so you can check that out. So far I've only swatched my Distress Oxides, not my sprays. So if we look for the mustard seed here, I can now see what it would look like exactly on the same paper that I'm using. I can see the oxide effect, which you can see here a little bit, so it's not massive. And I can also see that if I would add white splatters, that they would turn into this weird kind of a yellow. So I know I'm not going to use white splatters for this. Gold splatters would be fine. Black splatters obviously would be fine because they're not going to change. So this is super helpful. Thank you so much, Louise. I've never planned out pages like this before. I kind of always used to just go with the flow and see what happens, which is super fun as well. But I also really like the idea of knowing what's going to happen. That's a totally new concept for me. I will also link Louise's swatch series for you below. So if you haven't checked that out, even if you don't have Distress Oxides, her techniques work for any of your craft supplies. So check that out if you haven't. I find it life-changing, seriously. So let's have some fun smooshing some color. Let's add some water. For those swatches, I used my jelly plate instead of the acrylic paint, but I'm guessing that will not make a difference in the outcome. So then I dry this. So let's do some more smooshing. Let's add some more. So we have some nice variation going on here. I'm happy with that. Then let's see if we can get a little bit of oxidation happening here with some spraying. Let's wait a few seconds and then blot that with a paper towel. Oh yeah, that turned out quite nice actually. So this butterfly die is one of these big Z ones. So that one is used without that big plate underneath. So then let's add our paper and then add the second plate on top. And this of course will also make a really nice pocket in your journal. So definitely keeping that. And now for the second phase with the embossing folder, we do need to add this thick plate underneath. And then we need to place in our butterflies. And run that through again. And to add a little bit more interest, I want to add some Distress Embossing glaze. I have the colors Fossilized Amber and Walnut Stain here. The last time I tried this, most of the embossing powder blew away. And many of you have suggested to use the heat gun from the back rather than the front. So that's what I'm going to try. Haven't tried that since, so let's try this together. So first I'll try the yellow embossing glaze. So I'm going to spray some water. I want this effect to be uncontrollable. Then I'm going to take a paper towel and gently go over it because I don't want these to be dripping. Let's add the powder. Oops. Oh no, I shouldn't have done that. I should have sprayed it on something else because of course now the powder is going to stick to the paper. No, 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 we don't want that. Okay, it looks great. Let's do this one on this dry one. Yeah, that also looks great. So let's see what that looks like once we dry it from the back. So it looks like I still lost a lot of the powder because look how little is left. It did melt from the back, even though this is 200 GSM cardstock. So I do like the effect it has on the parts that are still there, but you do lose a lot. I don't know where it went. It's probably all over my craft room now. Okay, let's try it with the embossing stamp pad. Obviously, that's going to work a lot better. It won't be as uncontrolled, unfortunately, but yeah, if it sticks, then I'll be happy. So this is what we have here. There's definitely more here, but I must say it also blew away quite a bit. So I find these glazes quite tricky to work with. Also, I have the feeling, for example, here, like you can see it's darker, that's where the glaze is, but actually it hasn't really glazed a lot here. Like I don't see the shiny effect. Yeah, it's kind of tricky to work with, but I do love the effect. So let's try to get in a little bit more grunge by adding this walnut stain as well. So I'll use my embossing stamp pad again, and this time I'll try more the edges. Okay, that looks like quite a lot. Let's see what it looks like after it has melted. Okay, that one looks cool. So this was a success, I would say. So what I did here was to first use my heat gun from the back, letting the glaze kind of stick to my paper, and then I turned it around and applied the heat from the front to get the glazing effect. Very happy with those results. I also enjoy giving my butterflies some wire antennas. So let's cut off a piece. Let's make this shape like that. See? And then I'm just going to curl the ends with a tool like this that you can find for jewelry making, and I just loop the ends. Just twist them around, and then I turn them so that they lay flat. And then we can just take some tape and secure them on the back. Just like that. So let's add them to our page. I put some foam stickers with a little bit of glue on them for good measure. Put one here and the other one here. The cool thing is when you use foam stickers, they make their own shadow. You don't have to go around them to create like a fake shadow. Do you see this? They have their own. So that's what I really like about using foam tape. Usually I would add white splatters to this, and I may still do that, but as we saw before on the swatch, those will turn yellow on the butterfly, and I really did not like that effect. So what I could do is first splatter with a little bit of thinned down black acrylic paint. We could go where the butterflies are. So once those are dry, I can add my white gesso splatters. And because of this, I know to avoid the butterflies, because I really would not happy with the splatters turning to this color. It doesn't really come out that well on the camera, but they are like a really weird yellow. So if I wouldn't have had that swatch, I think I would have not been happy with how the splatters look on the butterflies. So let's cover those up. Everything is dry, and what I forgot, of course, is that the oxide spray also reacts with the white gesso. So look at all these effects. I mean, I'm fine with them, but so much for knowing what the outcome is going to be. I guess these oxides are very unpredictable, and unless you have swatches for any kind of combination of paper and spray, there will always be a surprise element to it, but that's something I actually really enjoy. We could add a sentiment. Okay, I found one here from 7 Dots Studio. These are the fortune teller stickers. And the one I want to use is conveniently the one that's already inked up. So apparently I wanted to use it on something else and then decided not to. And it says, be bright, be you. And the reason why I chose this is because of the bright butterflies. If I wanted to highlight it more, I could have put a white paper on the background to give it a nice border, but I'm kind of happy with it being a little more subtle. So we have one technique with the holes and the layers and 2 very different outcomes. I hope you had fun. And I also really hope that you'll do some experimenting in your own journals. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah.
I watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking? And I can't help but smile. Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on. I put my feet up.